When I first started writing personal essays, I felt like a failure. I struggled so hard with it. And the problem wasn't me, it was that I wasn't working with an approach that really honored my own process. I'm Nicole, and I'm an award winning essayist and writing coach, and I help writers craft their best stories and share them with the world. And today, this video is all about 3 myths that might be holding you back from writing your best work. The first myth I call storytelling is ABC, and this has to do with the way that we were taught to write from the time we could hold a pencil. Linear storytelling, step by step, in a sequence, is a logical way to explain what we're thinking and do persuasive kinds of writing and make an argument. But it isn't the best way to capture our creativity when it's time to write a story, when we're doing imaginative work, work that best uses our intuition and that more spontaneous, unpredictable part of our brain where our creativity lives. When we switch gears into creative writing, we need to operate from the right part of our brain, and working in this linear way just isn't going to nurture that process. The irony at work here is that really gifted writers, creative and intuitive people who want to tell stories struggle way harder than they need to just because they have an approach that isn't tapping their creativity. If you've been struggling hard with your writing and what I'm putting down here is resonating with you, let me know by clicking that like button. Okay, so our society tells us that in order to be successful, we need to work hard, we need to have discipline. You might be thinking, well, isn't that how productive writers get it done? And that brings me to myth number 2. Myth number 2 is it's all about discipline. I want to call out this idea that what separates the amateurs, the wannabe writers, from the successful writers, the real writers, is it comes down to productivity hacks or rule-based routines. Have you ever been stuck and gotten the advice to just keep writing? In other words, just keep pushing harder and doing that thing that isn't working, just more of it so that you at least feel like you're productive, and maybe inspiration will strike and something will change. How does that work for you? There's a lot of writing advice out there to get past blocks that for me has never worked. So for example, one rule-based approach might be setting up a schedule and writing at a certain time every day. This doesn't work for me because if I feel like I have to show up at a certain time to do something creative and something else takes priority because I'm a busy person like you, I happen to be a mom, things can go sideways in my day really quickly, I just end up feeling bad about it. And I don't want to feel bad about my writing or about not being able to keep up with a schedule. Writing to a schedule makes writing to me feel like a chore, like the way I do dishes after dinner every night. For me, schedules fall into the same category as other linear approaches to writing, like working with an outline or a template or a formula. Again, these approaches work for a logical approach to writing, the kind of approach that isn't really where our stories live. For me, schedules fall into the same category as things like planning templates and outlines and formulas. They don't really work for me. I find them frustrating. I don't like to overplan because that takes the joy of discovery away, the element of surprise. And that's one of the reasons I like to show up for my writing. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't want to overplan. When I was in high school, my art teacher told us, if you are working on something, don't talk about it because it's going to drain energy from your project. And that's what I feel like planning too much does for a creative project as well. It drains the energy. It drains my enthusiasm. So if schedules, outlines, formulas, templates don't work for you either, don't feel bad about it. Hang on for myth number 3. All right, we're on to creative myth number 3, and that is that the creative process is one size fits all, that there is some kind of trajectory that everyone follows when they are doing creative work. What's wrong with this myth is that it doesn't acknowledge that creative people, intuitive people, highly sensitive people process information differently than other people, which means that we think differently and it means that we write differently. Author and writing coach Lauren Sapela has a lot to say on how personality type affects our writing process. So she works primarily with people who fall in the intuitive feeler category of personality types. Those are the INFJs and INFPs. If you're not sure what your personality type is, I really encourage you to do the 16 Personalities online quiz. It is fascinating and often uncanny how accurate the description of personalities are. If you do fall under the intuitive feeler category of personality type, I highly recommend Lauren's book, The INFJ Writer. I am an INFP, and I recognized so much of myself in her description of how we think, we feel, and we write, down to the exact approach that I have learned to use to work with my divergent, creative, intuitive brain. So I've come up with a bit of a metaphor to describe these two different approaches to writing that I've described in this video. The first is like driving a truck. You are starting from here, and you're going to write your way through to the end in chronological order, and you're going to just get to your destination, your end point. A more creative and intuitive approach to writing is like standing outside in a snowstorm and holding a cup. You are just there to catch snowflakes. So when you are in the right mode, the receptive mode, and you're attentive to your process and you're working with your intuition, those snowflakes are things like bits of dialogue that you heard on the subway, or a dream that you had last night that somehow you feel ties into your story, or an image you can't get out of your head and you're sure it's significant, but until you actually get into the writing, you're not sure what it means, but there's something to it. It's gathering all of those fragments, all of those snowflakes, and then learning what to do next that is going to help you write in alignment with your intuition and creativity. So here's what I want you to take away from this video. Creativity is all about breaking the rules. So I want you to think about the rules that you've been told, the ones that don't work for you, the ones that maybe you've tried and have just left you more frustrated and more stuck, and just throw them out. I want you to start noticing how your own creative process works when you're in alignment with your intuition. And if you're ready to throw out those rules that don't work for you, I want you to write in all caps, yes, ! In the comments. And if you're ready to take your next step, tune into my next video. I'm going to share 7 ways that you can tap your intuition and write with more ease and flow.